What is going on, everybody? Hello and welcome to another Thursday night edition of Aquaholics Anonymous. I'm your host, Fish Room Fever, of course, with my buddy, my pal, and my co-host, Chattanooga Ed. Appreciate you all being here, and thank you for the reminders to hit that go live button after last week's shenanigans and talking to you all for almost 15 minutes off the air. Much appreciated. So we've already got super chats rolling in, and we will definitely get to those. Lots of awesome members in here. I hope you all are enjoying seeing some content coming out again. I know we had that brief spell where you weren't getting anything, so I want to make sure my goal right now is one members video a week and one standard video a week, and we may get to more than that, and that is the plan, but bare minimum that. So hope you all enjoy that. Just a quick update: we are currently 5 members away from hitting that next emoji. As I've mentioned before, we have some people that aren't on auto renew, so they drop off, they come back. But as soon as we get that locked in, I'm going to throw a place marker in there, if you will, because the way it works is if it opens up and then we drop back below that threshold, they take it away unless it's already assigned. So I'll throw something in there, and then I can get the actual members only emoji added. It's been an interesting day. You'll have to maybe bear with us a little bit. I hope you'll enjoy the topic tonight. And it kind of stems from, I started about 6 o'clock this morning fiddling with tanks and doing things. The members, you all got to see the behind the scenes of what my goal is for kind of combining 2 of the fish room / areas. I'm going to move my chat over here. I always move it there like as soon as I hit live, and for some reason I didn't. I think I was worried about not seeing the live notification. But I started on part of that, phase 1 as I'm calling it. Broke down 16 tanks today and moved a 90-gallon and a 100-gallon. So I've got that video filmed. It's uploaded, and I will release it later this week. So there's a regular video in the can, if you will. That way we can stay on process and get you all some content, because I appreciate you all bearing with me. But there are a lot of things that I used today, and different tips and tricks, I guess, if you will, that maybe you're new to the hobby and you just don't know about them. A lot of you all that are in here have been in the hobby many years and are probably familiar with most of these things. But I figured we'd go ahead and share, because as we see in all the streams every week, people are going, hey, I just got my 8th tank. Hey, I just got my 15th tank. Hey, I just got in the hobby 4 months ago, and now I have a fish room. So there's a lot of room for us to share information. That being said, we had a guest lined up, and there was a last-minute emergency. So I kind of threw this together in true live stream style within the past 45 minutes, changed the thumbnail and all that, but I think you'll still enjoy it, and I think it will still be educational and probably a bit entertaining as I fumble with all the props, because I've got lots of props tonight. Let's see. Looks like John and Lisa are still going, so we'll give it a couple minutes for people to roll in before we actually get into the main topic, if you will. But it's been an interesting day. Like I said, broke down 16 aquariums, and I know most people are expanding. And we've touched on this, a couple weeks ago. We discussed what's the right amount of aquariums. Where does that fine line hit, where it goes into being too much and you don't really get to enjoy your fish, or maybe something happens in your life that changes what's going on. So there's been some interesting turns of event, I guess is the best way to put it. We will, of course, be taking questions from the chat. Just put @FishRoomFever. That will highlight it for me, and I can go ahead and grab those. Real quick, I am going to say a huge thank you to Tank Top Tropics, busting in here with that $1 super chat with the big brown pile of fertilizer. I really do appreciate that, Tank Top Tropics. Very, very kind of you. And look at that. We've got a new member, Sarah J. Sieber. Appreciate that. Welcome to the Fish Room Fever family. Welcome to the team. I appreciate you coming in, doing that. Very glad to see you here always. You've been a fan. I hate to use the word fan, but I have people, I'm fanning out right now. You've been a big supporter and a big help. It's also been kind of a throw off that we just recently learned that we lost a really good friend and supporter of the hobby, Aquarium Cop, who was one of my very first subscribers. That's somebody that even if they didn't say anything in the chat, they were always there. It's always sharing out the streams. He was a really awesome dude. And anytime he would pop in and say hi, it was like, never forget that name. You know, somebody that supported me from the very beginning, and I can't ever thank those people enough. So it's very sad to see him leave. Any of the mods, if you all would do me a favor, I tried not to give you all too much work, but if you would do me a favor throughout tonight, and go ahead and drop the link for his family's GoFundMe so that they can help cover, you know, costs that, you know, are affiliated with that. Feel free to do so, and I appreciate you doing that very much.
Yeah, every time I would talk to him, he maybe wasn't in our chat, but he would watch our shows, and he would know James and Ed trivia, and it would shock me how he knew there was nothing he didn't. I don't know if he just remembered everything we said, and I feel sorry for him in one way to do that, but he is just an awesome supporter, and yeah, I'm gonna miss him a lot. It really sucks, and
absolutely. And I know, unfortunately, because I got backed up on comments, I know I've got some comments from him, and that's always tough. You know, when we lost Nathan with Sand Creek Aquatics, that's kind of my stopping point, if you will, almost. When I go back, there's a certain time period that I don't go past. And so like I go through and I always hit that last comment that he left me that I didn't get a chance to reply to before he passed, unfortunately. And I know I've got a couple from COP. So that's always a little rough for me. Fortunately, it's not live, and so I can deal with it, you know, on my own. But I hate to lose a member of the family like that. See, we're gonna get to some questions. We're gonna have a good time tonight because I know that's what he would want. He would, you know, keep the fishy swimming and the tanks full, right? Pegasus Arena says, Fisher Fever and Ed, sorry to hear you guys lost another friend. I hope you're both doing all right. I appreciate that, Rena, very much. I do. Molly A says, question for anyone. I have a 15-gallon and was wondering, with 11 Harlequins and a betta, is that too many Harlequins? For my betta, he isn't looking too good. Fins look nipped, and he's not swimming right. So if they are bothering your betta, then I would say yes. If you weren't having any aggression issues and you weren't seeing the fin damage, I would say you're probably fine, given proper filtration and water change schedule, of course. But since you are seeing problems, he's not swimming right, and you're having fin damage, I would say that's probably too many. The problem is, if they're aggressive at 11 and you try and go down to like 6, that's less of them to spread the aggression out on, and potentially more aggression that they're going to show to him. So you may, more than likely, if I had to guess, you may end up having to remove that whole group of 11 or remove him and have them in separate tanks. And I know that's probably not the answer you wanted, although, excuse for another tank, right? But generally, we add more fish to spread out aggression and lessen aggression, so to speak. So taking 11 aggressive fish and taking down to 6 or 5 or whatnot, you're probably going to see more damage to him. And with him already being in bad shape, it may put him in a condition that he's not likely to recover from.
Yeah, I can speak on this personally. I had Florida flagfish or American flagfish, and I put a betta in there with them because I wanted to add some color to the tank and stuff, and I thought they'd all chill. And there's a little bit of fin nipping, but I thought it would end. And like 2 days later, they completely took every fin off the poor guy. Yeah. And I wish I would have, as soon as I saw it right away, just a little bit, I should have, because they're so slow compared to the fin nippers. It's a horrible feeling to pull a fish out that has no fins. It's not worth it. Trust me. It really sucks. And I put him in a hospital tank, but he only made it like 2 more days, and it just sucks. So I just pull him.
Yeah, and that absolutely breaks your heart when something like that happens and you could have prevented it. Let's see. Nate says, hey guys, speaking of oddball items, I like oddball tanks. I like the 33 long for how short and long it is. Do you have any oddball stocking suggestions? Any bigger fish? So,
For what size tank?
well, he said he likes the oddball tanks and then references the 33 long, but then asks about oddball bigger fish. And bigger is a matter of perception. So when you say bigger fish, I don't think of anything that you could put in a 33 long. If you wanted something for a 33 long, let me know. But I don't know if it was intended to go in a 33 long when you say any bigger fish. Assuming it's not a 33 long, my favorite large oddball fish are Datnoids. Absolutely by far my favorite. Bashirs also, but you see Bashirs or Bishers or Bickers or Bikers, however you prefer to pronounce it, far more often than you do Datnoids. And you can get, I would definitely go with the smaller Datnoids. But if you're looking for a large fish for a 33-gallon long, that's kind of tricky because of how short they are. I'm gonna have to think on that.
You mean shallow?
Yeah, top to bottom, because they're short, but they're really long. So
you can get some cool flow in those.
You really can. I've seen some really neat setups with flow, and those are really cool tanks for. This is not a bigger fish, but like for hill stream loaches and stuff, you can do some really neat flow things for them. Maybe
if I know it's not really a fish, but a crayfish, they can get pretty big, and they would be happy in something like that too. If he wants just something big, but maybe he's talking about a big small fish, like maybe small rainbows, like a rainbow that's small. That might do fine.
Absolutely.
Pacific blue eyes or something like that. Just throwing that out.
I'll have to think on a larger fish for a 33-gallon. That's a very good question. Priscilla, thank you for posting a link for Aquarium Cops Family's GoFundMe page. Where was it? Sarah, I did get your email and I did send a response, and I really do appreciate that. That would be super, super cool. I'd love to have some fish from you. See, roll down through here. We'll get some highlighted stuff. I see John and Lisa are still rolling. We've got 71 people, though, even with them going. So I really, really do appreciate that. 46 likes. Huge thanks for hitting that thumbs up button. Mary Beth McCubbin says, where do people get floating plants? I heard they don't ship well, and I cannot find any locally. I have noticed more issues with floating plants than I do with not floating plants. Frog bit is definitely a little trickier to ship than, say, Java moss or even swords or any of the non-floating plants. Where you may be able to find a middle ground, if you will, and these are not necessarily top floaters like your frog bit is. But you could look into, because if you're wanting something that's just going to be, up in the top of the tank, non-rooted, water sprite, water wisteria, guppy grass,
Kabumba.
Yeah, that's another one. Things like that you have the option to root or not to root, and then let them float, because all those plants, I just let them float. Other than that, really your best sources are individuals, people that are just hobbyists, and try and find one that's got a good track record with shipping those things.
I learned how to send floating plants, as in like your lilies and stuff.
Yep.
Like your frog bit. Was Priscilla. She sent me some frog bit, and she took the roots and put it on some wet paper towel and then folded it slowly. And then what I did that was different than her, and I've been very successful with it, is I take it and I put it in a Ziploc bag, and I tape the Ziploc bag to the box, the inside of the box. And I sent a whole bunch of frog lettuce to Rico Stand, and it did great for him. So that way it's not shaking, but I keep it all moist at the same time.
Absolutely.
I was really paranoid with the frog or with the lettuce because I really didn't want, to, get too much dampness also on the top of the thing.
Yep. But, absolutely. I did see, so I've got an answer for a question that was earlier when I get down to there. Let me go back up here because I think I missed a couple things in scrolling. Paul Sotero mentioned Goodeids for that 33, and then there was also mention of some rainbow fish. Absolutely. Fat Man Aquatics is a big small fish, whale shark, jumbo shrimp. Let's see. Ray Aquatics says, have any of you guys used a blower for air? So I have a linear air pump, the Aquarium co-op one, and I do want to preface because we're going to talk about some co-op things tonight. Got the hat and the shirt and all that. Not sponsored. Just really love their stuff. Ed and I both, use products from them on a regular basis. I'm going to pause this because now I'm watching my hand gestures 15 seconds delayed on the other screen. If I was going to go with an air system for lots of tanks, lots of sponge filters, I 100% recommend going with the co-op air pump. I've not tried any of the others, but I've read tons and tons of reviews, keeping in mind that that was one of those things that I was after for well over a year. So I did a lot of research. I looked into cheaper options, the Amazon rinky dinks, if you will, read well over 1,000 reviews and lots of problems with noise and things of that nature. Another great thing about co-op products is the brand, the name. Corey stands behind the products. He does immense amounts of product testing before it even goes to market. So you've got that going for you versus a random generic pump that some person you don't know is selling you on Amazon. So that would be my recommendation if you're looking at setting up a lot of tanks on an air system. There
is Jimco.
Yeah,
and they've been known for years of being the main guys. And I was planning on buying a Jimco until I saw that Corey has the exact same pump. And, they're basically the same price. So I know that Corey stands behind his products. I mean, I've heard just wonderful things about Jimco.
Absolutely.
But I know Candy's going to help me if I need it. Corey's given me a couple of free T-shirts. I'm going to be loyal to the guy that's nice to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the shirts, he gave out thousands of shirts that day. So it's not like he's just being nice to me. He's being nice to everybody.
Right.
And I'm going to help Corey out because he helps us out.
So exactly. It's a hobbyist, a small business and a community leader, in my opinion. So, but nothing wrong with Jimco. The one big drawback there, unless they've changed it, from what I understand, you still can't just go on their site and order. You have to make a phone call, place your order and all that, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You get that one-on-one customer service and, oh, hey, you might want to consider getting this accessory or part or whatnot. But either one of those you'd be good with.
And honestly, that's where I started. And they were slow when I was trying. And so I looked around, and that was like the day Corey came out with the exact same thing. And their speed lost their sale.
Absolutely.
Because I'm like, Corey has the exact same thing. I'm just going to get it from him.
Definitely. Most definitely. So Bottom Dweller Aquatics asked a question in a stream that Ed and I were a guest in earlier, and we didn't get a chance to get to it. But Bottom Dweller says, Fisherman Fever and Ed, hello, did you get a chance to check the name of that canister filter? I think I might end up trying the Pinplax Cascade 1000. It's funny that you mentioned that, and that's why I chuckled, is because it is a Pinplax Cascade that I have out there. The reason I was going to recommend that, and please don't crucify me because this was not my setup. This was a setup that was given to me by someone that could no longer do the upkeep due to personal issues. That filter was on a 75-gallon tank with 2 massive turtles, 2 common plecos, and a bunch of feeder fish. And ran before I got it. Now I've got it, and it does a wonderful job. I've got it on a 100-gallon that I sometimes plumb in line with the 90-gallon, and it does a great job on there. So I know that thing can handle one heck of a bioload. The turnover per hour is not necessarily huge, but it still does a really great job on keeping that water clean. So it's funny that you mentioned the Pimplex. And I did see it wasn't the 1,000. I think it was the 850 is like half price on Petco online right now when I was looking them up. So look into that. If you don't have to have the 1,000 to save you some money there, you may be able to find the 1,000 on sale as well.
I have, I don't know if this is considered a cheap canister, but cheaper than the Flugel is the Marineland, the C530. And I have that on my 75, and it does great. So just throwing that out, because I don't know. I won it. Yeah. So I'm not for sure. I think Marineland, is that kind of a lower cost one than the Flugels?
Yes. I've got those.
I was amazed on how quiet it is.
Absolutely.
Rack gave me a good pointer, because when I won it, he said, "Congratulations." It was for a video I made. Mm-hmm. And he said, because he had won it the month before. Maybe we won at the same time, because they picked 2 videos. That was crazy. But he had already had one. So he said, make sure you put a little piece of carpet under it to stop vibration of it. But I didn't have vibration at all to begin with. But I still put a little carpet, just nothing. No noise, runs smooth. I've had it for 2 years, going great. So I think is that kind of like, it's probably the low-end store-bought thing you can buy.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fair evaluation of that. Chris from Multi-Tank Addiction, my brother from another mother, welcome back to the Fish Room Fever family. Appreciate you becoming a member again, my friend, and renewing that. It's always good to see you. I really do appreciate that, and I hope you're having a great day. I'm going to roll through here and try and get caught up real quick, and then we're going to jump into talking about some of these odd things, items, and tips and tricks and things of that nature. Fat Man, I appreciate that. I really, really do. Let's roll through here, grabbing highlighted stuff. Bottom Dweller says that great and it works good, sweet. I want it. Yeah. I mean, and if you could get the 1,000, for $65, I would definitely do that. Another thing is, I know she didn't maintain it regularly. Most people don't anyways, but I know for sure it wasn't regularly maintained, and the seal didn't blow out when I went to clean that thing. So I give them props for that. So I think we are caught up on that. So I'm going to hold the chat right there. So as I mentioned, went through today. Got 91 people here, 61 thumbs up. Very much appreciated. But I spent from about 6 o'clock in the morning until well past 6 o'clock tonight, like right up until I went on Sand Creek Aquatics live stream as a guest, working on tanks and filming it. And there are a lot of different little things that I do that make life a lot easier for me and make it more efficient, that don't just apply to breaking down tanks. They also apply to water changes and maintenance and just day-to-day activities. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this is especially geared towards people that are, ever expanding hobby. Oh, I got a tank a couple months ago. Now I got 8. I'm trying to find a place for 3 more. Oh, I hit the $1 per gallon sale. Now I got 5 more. I got to figure out where to put them. May not already have a Python system, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the Python brand, but I highly recommend you getting some sort of siphoning system with a hose. In accompaniment to that, I recommend that you get it set up to where you can hook it into your tap or hook it into some sort of water where you can adjust your hot and cold for filling, run it straight into the tank. Different ways you can do that, and depending upon your plumbing levels and your requirements, it can be as easy as screwing that thing on to a sink that you've already got, or maybe getting an adapter, but still fairly simple. 2 things that go with that. Let me not click buttons here. I'm clicking all the buttons and pressing all the things. And Corey's preached this, and Ed, I know you do the same. Having a power head so that you can stick that hose on there, drop this down in the tank, drain it out. That's not only great for the speed and efficiency of getting tanks drained out, but it's also really nice if you're somebody like myself. I've got some tanks that are really low. Trying to gravity siphon those things is really tricky. I basically, if I want to get the bottom row of tanks, it's only this far off the ground, I have to run the end of the siphon hose out the door and off the porch so that it's got enough gravity to pull that water out, versus just being able to drop this in. It's probably going to drip a little water because I was using it, but I can turn it like that so that the intake's down on the bottom. I've got a little PVC piece I shove in there with a piece of foam over it if I'm putting this in a tank that's got stuff that could get sucked to it, which is very important. Almost lost a clown loach earlier had I not been paying attention. Just about got sucked up into that thing and murdered. So keep that in mind if you are using a pump in the tank to drain water and there are fish in there. You want to have some sort of pre-filter over that to keep your fish from getting hurt / shredded and shot out the other end of the hose.
Even for your siphons too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I keep hose always over my stuff.
Definitely. Most definitely. So this thing, and even if you don't do the pump, you can get away without doing the pump. A Python hook. Now, keep in mind, and of course you can do a PVC version, a DIY, just depends on how handy you are, but just the average person can go out and buy this. But keep in mind the threading on these, in my experience, does not match up to the Aquarium version threading. So I had the Aquarium hose. I ended up getting a little 33-cent garden hose splitter or corrector. If you get a nick in your garden hose, you can put it in there and it fixes it. And actually attaching just a short piece of garden hose to the end of my siphoning system so that this would thread properly. This thing, awesome. Hook it on the tank, hook it where you need to. You hook it on your trash can if you're using a trash can. There are some things that come with that. Most people are familiar with these. I am a huge fan. Sorry, I've got tons of props tonight, so let me move some stuff around.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I wanted to buy the hook, and they were sold out. I got my Python right before the whole crisis hit, and I think they may have shut their factory down for a long time because I literally was on like a 4-month waiting list to get my Python.
So,
and they never had the hooks, and so they just refunded me the money.
The last time I was in there, which was not long ago, Aquatic Marine in Knoxville, Tennessee, my favorite local fish store, had these in stock. You can go on aquaticmarine.net. They have started shipping some things online and doing online sales. I don't know if these are on there or not, but I know, of course, Ed, you're local to me, and you get up here to Knoxville from time to time. I know they had them in stock, and I can always swing by there and grab one and hold on to it for you. But
now, when you stick that in your tank, does it blow a blast directly down onto your substrate, or do you have to angle it, or what?
It does, but we're going to get to that. I'm going to show you how I correct for that, if you will, or how I make adjustment for that. But in terms of, okay, got my hook, I've got my Python set up. First thing I'm going to do when I'm working on the tank, doing maintenance, I'm going to drain the tank. 1-inch PVC. What is it? Schedule 40, I think is the correct thickness. Your standard 1-inch PVC. It's not the super thin wall, it's the other. It fits perfectly on there. Now, it's not like 100% airtight. It's 99.8% airtight. So if you're trying to siphon up 3 foot, there's going to be enough of a suction gap that it may slow down. But I have several lengths of this. So this particular length I have works great for me on 10 gallons, 20 longs, my 40 breeders, a lot of the tanks I have. I have a couple different sizes, though. I have like this one I'll slip on there. Say if I'm doing my 90 gallon, which is a much taller tank, I'll stick that on there, drop that down in. Like we talked about before. Go ahead, buddy.
Did you drill these? Is there holes all through it, or what's the deal?
No, we're siphoning through the end there. So part of that is...
Oh, I was thinking we were putting water in with these on.
Not yet. We're still taking the water out because we're doing a water change. So we're going to take the water out. So depending upon... I'm going to use a smaller tube for this. And most of these I've got cut to where they get right down to the bottom of the tank with a little bit of room to spare. I'm not always going to drain that much, but I don't need to have one that's 6 inches for a 25% water change on a big, and so on and so forth. When I can stick this in there, I know it's capable of doing a 90% water change on that tank, or like today I needed to move it. I used this. I stuck it in there, drain it all the way out, no problem. The thing that goes along with that, like we had discussed, got 108 people watching. I appreciate that. Always awesome when we can break 100. So thank you very much for that. And I see some more super chats rolling in, and we will definitely get to those. Very much appreciated. I'm sure we've got some questions in there. And this is, of course, a little wet because I was using this today. A pre-filter sponge. This end is closed. This end is open. Now, these are not designed for this big of a diameter. They're actually designed to kind of fit on your standard hang-on back intake, but they open it up enough that you can stick it on there. That's wonderful when you've got lots of guppies and endlers and shrimp and lots of little things. But it also helps from your big fish as well. Not that there's necessarily a whole lot of suction, because we're doing this drain method without the pump. This is okay. I'm not spending money on an extra pump right now. That's just not happening. Get the hook, get your PVC. You can drain with this. I stick it in there. I let it go. You know, if I just wanted it to go 25% water change, stop it when it gets there. And with having racks, what I will do is I'll very quickly pull it out of one and slide it to the next. Pull it out of one and slide it to the next. And I can do an entire rack of tanks without having to start a siphon, stop a siphon, start a siphon, stop a siphon. So it's just very simple. Boom, 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 boom. Drain all my water out. Like you mentioned before, one of the problems you run into when you're filling a tank with these, it's great because you can just hang it on there and go. You don't have to sit there and hold it or get a clip to hold the hose in place, which I've got clips and clamps and stuff, but hang it on there, boom, you know it's not going anywhere. What I like to do, that same piece of PVC that I use to pull the water out with, it stayed on there the whole time. I take that pre-filter sponge off, get 2 elbows and just a small piece of pipe. And this is where I count into making this short enough that this doesn't sit like that when I put it in the tank. So now when I'm filling, that water is going upward. This is important in general, but it's super important when you're doing like a dirted tank with a sand cap, because you definitely don't want this. Now they're stuck together. You don't want this. You definitely don't want this that's right here at the bottom, shooting that water straight into your substrate, kicking the sand off the dirt. You really don't want it kicking up all your gravel and stuff necessarily. But again, really important for dirted tanks with the sand cap on them. So now you're sitting this in there, boom. The way I've got it set up, this sits right on the bottom there. Water shoots upwards. Don't have to worry about it disturbing the substrate, any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about it maybe uncovering the roots of your plants, or maybe not barreling. Goodness, words are hard, but I'll learn how to use them eventually. Covering up any of your little critters in there. You know, it's not going to bury any shrimp because it's blasting substrate on top of them. So that's one of my favorites to use, and kind of probably my top recommendation. If you're expanding your fish tank collection and it's getting to where you're like, I'm sick of buckets. This is getting really old. And I still recommend having 5-gallon buckets. 5-gallon buckets, very important. Definitely something you should have in the fish room. But this is going to save you a lot of time and hassle, make life a little bit easier for you. And it's a method that I wouldn't leave unless I upgraded into like an auto water change system. Questions?
That's awesome. No, I like it. I can tell you a terrible story about the tank I just redid, my 120. I put my dad to work when I do my water changes now. I used to use like the big 35-gallon trash cans on wheels, and I would fill it up and just park it in the fish room and let it naturally get warm, or heat up with all the fish, so I could just do a bunch. And I had two trash cans like that, and I would just do a mess of them and then wait 2 days, and it's basically when my water was ready, I'd go. But now that I got the Python and I'm using the Prime method, I put my dad to work, and normally I have him operating off and on at this switch. But he asked, "Hey, can I try doing your end?" Because I'm going and having. Maybe he thought that'd be fun. He was like, "Is it supposed to be getting so cloudy?" Because he literally pushed the Python to the bottom of the tank and was blasting through my lasagna layers.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was pretty horrible. So I really like that neat little thing poking up.
It makes all the difference in the world. You don't have to worry about it. And again, it's still something that, because you can take, well, I'm not going to pull that off, but because you can kind of take and fold it, so it's not like this huge, massive S you're trying to get out. You can kind of take and bend it to where it's just up and out of the tank, up and out of the tank. You can go through. What I like to do, it takes a little bit of practice, but I keep this big boy handy. I'm going to talk about these in a second. I keep this handy. So I've got my water flowing. My tank's almost full. I'll hook this on the side, and then I'll lift it out over to the next tank, so I don't have to stop and start the water. Same thing, I'm minimizing how many motions I have to go through. How many processes am I adding to this? How can I optimize my time? And I think that's really big in terms of, as we progress with more and more tanks, we really want to be as efficient as possible in getting things done. That way, one, we don't get behind on maintenance, water changes, things like that. But two, it gives us more time with family, gives us more time to enjoy our fish, more time to do other things that need done in our lives. All right, I see some questions and stuff. I will get to those, I promise. I know we've only got 22 minutes left. We kind of went a little long on the first part of it, but I wanted to get those questions at the beginning.
And we can carry it over to the next show, too.
I like that. So here's something else that I definitely recommend, and this is not necessarily an odd product, but it's something that if you're not breeding fish, you may not have thought to invest in them, and that is breeder boxes. Sorry, I'm playing with props over here. So I've got just a couple examples. This one is a floating one. So you stick it in there. It's got these two little, I'll set those there. Got these two little pockets here that catch air, and it sits and floats. It's got the lid so things can't jump in or out of it. I've also found that they self-suction really well to the side of a tank. So if you just kind of push them up against the glass, when it pushes that water out, that'll keep it from kind of floating around, especially if you've got a sponge filter in there. Maybe this thing floats over it and it bubbles that way, and maybe your top wasn't all the way on, or maybe you lost your top because you've had this thing for so long, or it got broke or something. The net ones. Now I know the most familiar form of these is the ones with the metal hooks, and I recommend those over the suction cup version. I've had horrible luck with these suction cup versions. I think pretty much everyone I've ever used that I just trusted the suction cups, I came back and that thing was sitting down in the tank, which may not be so bad, except usually when I'm using this, I'm putting it in another tank with similar water conditions that has a different type of fish. So if you've got two different strains of guppies and you come back and this thing is dropped in the tank, your two strains are crossed, and good luck with fixing that. So I like to take, I have one, but I can't get to it. Just a large plastic clip, and I'll just clip these to the glass in addition to the suction cup. That way I've got something else that's holding it from dropping down in the water. One of my personal
tips, or not your tips, but your clips.
Yeah, I get the
amazing to have those plastic things in the fish room, because I use them so much.
And the kids have clipped it around the leg of this table here. There we go. I had to unclip it with my feet and slide it over here. So these, you can get them 4 for $1 or sometimes 6 for $1 at the dollar store. So you got your tank, clip that onto your tank. I usually will use 2, not always. Sometimes just put one in the middle, but I'll usually, since I've got quite a few, put one on each end. It helps with the suction cups popping off of there and that thing dropping into the tank. My favorite, my absolute favorite, the do-it-yourself one. These are great for like you've got a bunch of fry or something like that. And the reason I'm mentioning these, even if you're not breeding fish, you're moving fish around. Like today, I broke down 16 tanks. I had to move a lot of fish out and move them to different places. It was so much easier to have all these options available to, oh, I can float them in here for now, and then I can come back and get them set up later, versus having to worry about, okay, I've got to do a complete reset up over here and then get the fish in there. But these are actually, and some of y'all already know this, my old extreme canisters. Once I use up that food and I go through food, I take this thing, get the label off, get to there, put a couple holes for little suction cups, and just the airline holders that you would get to hold your airline in place, you know, for your sponge filter, your airstone or whatnot. And I buy this stainless mesh on Amazon in big sheets, really cheap. I think it's like 12 or 2, like 11 by 14 sheets or something like that. Got a hole right there in the front, throw my little film over it, and that way it's still getting the water from the tank. But the way these sit in the tank is you got about that much outside of the water. You also have the lid that came with it. So if you've got some fish you're worried about fish jumping in, fish jumping out like we about, you still got that lid. You pop it on there. You don't have to worry about being in an enclosed space, and it's great, especially for temporary stuff. You know, you've got a little tank of guppies and you're breaking that tank, moving them over. You can drop them in here, stick that in another guppy tank, stick that on there. You know, you're not going to get your strains crossed. And it's also keeping this out of the lawn. I did one self box filters. I'll get that video out where we took one of these and made a box filter. So check that out if you're interested in box filters and in keeping trash out of the fish.
And James actually uses all these things. I've seen his fish room. He has all sorts of neat ways that he keeps his fry away from the other fish. I've
got probably more odd things than I even can think to go, oh, hey, that's something I should tell people about. My Tetra Tropical Color Granule containers, the bigger things. I use the stronger magnets because I've got a lot of metal racks, and I'll use one of those magnets inside of it to hold that Tetra Granules container on there. And then I've got one that I use for all my pipettes. I've got one that I've got one that actually holds. I buy the plastic cube containers of toothbrushes. It's like 6 or 8 for $1 at the dollar store, and I clip one of those on there. So I've always got toothbrushes handy to scrub something, you know, fitting or something like that, and clean it up. That's just one of those weird things that I've learned over the years in the hobby that makes life easier. Let's see, how long do we got? We got 15 minutes. I will leave you with this one, and then we'll jump into the questions real quick. I highly, highly recommend, and again, not sponsored, highly recommend, and you see I had that written on there. Go to Aquarium Co-op, get you some of these specimen containers. You can get other specimen containers, but they're generally not these flexi ones. They're the really thin, brittle plastic. I've literally taken, it's got liquid in it, 4 of these, put a piece of wood over it, and jumped on it. And I'm not a skinny guy. I'm not necessarily a tall, like big guy, but I'm not a skinny guy. And jumped up and down on them. I still need to find the audio for that video so I can release it for you all. Didn't break them. Spoiler alert, didn't break them. You can throw these things. They're really, really flexible. Definitely recommend it. These are wonderful once you get into having a lot of tanks. You got to move stuff around. You've got maybe plants need to go somewhere. You've got to pull out some fish and move them. You've got some sick fish. You want to get them out of the tank real quick and get them in something else, but you don't have the other hospital tank set up. Throw them in here, hang them on there. Gives you time to do that. Sponge filters. Another thing I use these for a lot is when I pull my sponge filters. I don't always use the bag method. Not that I don't recommend it, but I don't always use the bag method, just depending upon how much detritus and debris is going to come off of it. So a lot of times I'll use these and I'll put that sponge filter over this. Then I can take it without getting water everywhere.
Rob, my fish store guy at Aquatic Aesthetics, he just said that the small specimen container is perfect for 2 cold beers.
There you go. I mean, that seems right to me. That seems absolutely right. I like that. There you go. You never know what usage you can find. All right, let's grab some questions. I know we've got some super chats. I want to make sure we get to those, and I don't want to run over Ed's time because I've got a special announcement for you all. For anybody that doesn't know it already, Ed's monetization came through. So we've got some super chats in Ed's channel for the first time in history that we need to address. But let's see. Our man says, how can I help a deformed platy? In my opinion, you can't really do much to help it if it's deformed. If it's deformed to an extent that it's going to live a very horrible life, I would recommend putting it down. And there are various ways to do that. If it's something that's a minor deformity that's not going to seriously impact it and cause it long-term horrible life conditions, you can't really fix it. It's deformed, but you can try and give it a comfortable life. Maybe get it to a tank where it's not going to be, have a lot of aggressors in there. Just things of that nature. Try and give it the happiest life you can give it. And it may be fine wherever you've got it, but if it's something that you've got a school of tetras and they like to chase each other, and that one happens to be deformed, chances are it's going to get picked on more than the other. So maybe move it into a tank that's got some more peaceful fish. Let's roll through here real quick. Make sure we get everything that we can. Scott's Aquatics with the $2.99, the $3 thumbs up, fist bump. Appreciate the fist bump pair. Appreciate you, Scott's Aquatics. I still got your stickers right over here. I haven't put them on the tank just yet. I need to clean that glass. But my Fritz glass cleaner, the spray pump part has stopped working, and I'm assuming that's because the kids have done something. So I need to go buy a little spray bottle to put that stuff in, and then I'll get the stickers on there. But very much appreciate that, Scott. And always good to see you, my friend. Roll on down through here. Colin's Critter Cave is throwing that beautiful forest there at me with the $1 super sticker. Thank you for that, Colin. One of these days I'm going to find where that forest is so I can go camp it. I appreciate you, buddy. As always, thank you for being here. Roll on down here. Fatman Aquatic says, man, great minds think alike. LOL. You'll have to see how I built mine. I did something very similar. I love it. Yeah. It's one of those things that I feel like it comes down to a base level of common necessity. And that's where you'll see, oh, well, 15 people did that. Well, yeah, that's because that was the smartest thing that we could figure out to do collectively. Even if we didn't all get together and figure it out, we both came to the conclusion that something like this is what's going to work best. Hello, Tim Kendrick. How are you? Appreciate you being here. Rolling and a scrolling. Justin Powers. Oop, hold on a second. Chat jumped on me. Let me get back up here to Justin. Edgar, there we go. Justin Power says, I very much appreciate all your methods that you share with us that don't require an arm and a leg to afford, but are highly effective and efficient to getting the job done. Thank you. You are absolutely welcome, and I appreciate you being here for it. That was one of the biggest things when I started my channel, was trying to make the hobby more affordable. I feel like there are a lot of things out there that aren't necessary, that sometimes we get told that we need to have, and not to go into specifics, but there's marketing in every facet of life. So of course there's marketing in fish keeping. There are a lot of ways that life can be simplified, life can be made easier, and the hobby can be made cheaper. It's not always better to go less expensive, but a lot of times there's an easier way to do it that you can fit into your budget. All right. Edgar Reyes says, hello. Good to see you, Edgar. Always appreciate you being here. John Cox says, does the water falling back down, though, still make a mess of the soil? So, no. So, when that is coming up, it's got enough pressure that it's, flowing up into the tank, and you don't even get enough of a mushroom cloud, for lack of a better word, because it's coming up and it's fountaining, that it disturbs anything. So I've never had an issue with using this method to fill a tank, having the hook in there, and there being enough pressure for it to go all the way up to the tank, cycle back down, and disturb the substrate. Now, is it possible? Yeah, I could probably hook this thing to the 2,500 gallon per hour pump that I have and do some serious damage. But at that point, if you're running 2,500 gallons an hour of water into a 10 or a 20 gallon tank, you're going to do some damage no matter what direction that water is pointed at. That is a very valid question. I've never had an issue, and that's why I like that method.
You know, and I want to say something. When I told on my dad for messing up my substrate, he had fish for years, but he always had slate bottom tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So he never worried about substrate. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Roll over to here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Alrighty. Tank Top Tropics says, Fish Room Fever and Ed, have a 60-gallon custom coffee table tank. Had
Nice.
smaller koi in it, but they were moved to a pond. Any stocking ideas? Also, did you have that code to email? I will make you that code. Send me a message after the stream, and I will create that code for you because we're going to have to create one. And I should have access to that now. But in terms of stocking ideas for that, so I'm assuming when you say custom coffee table tank that it's a glass top and you've got top viewing on it. That's just my assumption when I hear coffee table tank. I couldn't imagine, not that you wouldn't, but I personally wouldn't have one that I couldn't see through the top. I really like the idea of a lot of shrimp. Lots of different shrimp. See, I instantly go to like a 50 low boy like Haley at Oddball has, and I want to turn that into a coffee table tank. Every time I look at the 50 low boy, I'm like, I want a coffee table tank out of a 50 low boy that's got all sorts of shrimp going around. Now you could do like some Hillstream loaches in there. I'm thinking things that have a really pretty top view. When I think
I'm wondering,
that.
Is it round?
Might be.
Because I mean, if it's the round thing, if you put something in the middle, like if your filtration or something is in the middle, it's like a donut, that would be a lot like that one at Aquashella where all the fish are going in circles. So maybe a big school of something would be really cool.
That would be awesome if you've got a round setup like that and you can get the flow going. Definitely. And there are so many options you could do with that. All sorts of different tetras and
steelhead guppies would be amazing. They look wonderful. I call them pond guppies because when you look down on them, they just glow. But I mean, they would look awesome too when you're looking down on them. They're kind of like mini koi, kind of. I mean, at least that's how I feel when I look at them in my pond because they're just so beautiful looking down.
So I saw a question real quick, and I'm going to assume it was in reference to this. But Fisher Aquatics says, can I move the fry to that and not have to worry about ammonia? That is exactly what I built these for, was to maximize fry output because most of my parents tend to try and eat some. A lot of times to do, not necessary, but what I like to do since I run sponge filters is I'll get this where I've got that sponge filter flow going across the front of it. You're getting some additional circulation in there. But yeah, you can definitely use this with fry. I've never had any problems with, I guess the closest reference I could use is maybe you did your DIY water bottle snail trap and you got some shrimp in there and they died because the water in that bottle spoiled. Even though it was in the tank, it still had different parameters. Never had any issues with that. You know, I'll move fry in here for a couple of weeks until I feel they're big enough that the parents aren't going to devour them, and then I'll pull them out. And I feed while they're in there and all that wonderful stuff.
Can I answer a question real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bottom dwellers, and that's Steel Angus, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
A lot of name changes lately, and I'm half asleep.
He won this thing, and for the longest time, James had your email, or not your email, but your address, and I didn't. And every time he'd give it to me, I would lose it. And he emailed me a bunch last week, and I totally forgot that I had it for this. I was thinking it was just for T-shirts, and I'm waiting to come in, and it's been in a bag under my table. So I will look for that email tonight and get your address and ship this out tomorrow. I am so sorry, buddy. Okay, sorry. I had to throw that out because I...
Rotel Half Moon says, how often weekly would you do water changes for guppies, adults, and fry in separate 5-gallon tanks? So 5-gallon tank, I'm assuming you've got a decent yield with the guppies. I don't know exactly what your setups are. If you've got them, heavily planted, you've got, a dozen guppies in there. If you've got one trio in there. But generally, because Ed and I both like to feed real heavy on the guppies, 5 gallons is a really small body of water in terms of parameters going out of whack really quickly. especially if you're not doing lots of plants and things to help absorb, your nitrates and kind of keep parameters in check a little bit more. I'm probably going to do in a 5 gallon. I'm probably going to do a 50% once a week. Or you could do 225s, but I'm probably going to do a 50% once a week just to be safe, because I feed heavily. I want those suckers to grow, and 5 gallons of water is real easy to spoil real quick.
Yeah, I answered this one by typing it.
I got you.
And I said 30 to 40. And, but probably I have 1 gallon of substrate in that thing too.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to say about this much out of that much of your tank. So
absolutely.
But so if I didn't have the substrate, 50%. I think
not a question. IHSPS's Tech Tribe said, I like the net breeders with the metal tabs you shape. I like those, but they have one major downfall, and these have that same downfall. And it's part of why I kind of prefer this one, but I really prefer mine, of course. And the big downfall is those metal tab bendy ones. When you put them in, let's see if I can do this real quick. And I know we're almost out of time, and we've got a new member I need to say thank you to, and we've got some more questions. So when you put this in the tank, I'm trying to find myself on the camera, it tends to be pushed out at the top, and the bottom of it tends to touch the glass. What I have found happens, especially with guppies and endlers and little fish, is I'll come back and they'll be stuck between this net box and the glass. And I've had it happen where they get stuck in there, and maybe I'm, gone to work, or I've been away from that tank for a while. I've had fish die because they got between that net and the glass. So I kind of touched on it a little bit with this one. When I use this one, I actually press it up against the glass so I know nothing can get behind it. And these, I specifically use those suction cups because there's a lot of space there. So even when this is pressed against the glass, there's still plenty of room for my biggest, pretty much guppies and endlers and all that to get behind this and still get out from behind it. It also works great. Side note, if you miss some fry, you're pulling fry and you're putting in this to get them to grow big enough. I have found that fry will tend to come find this on their own, especially if I've got some in here. Okay, I missed a couple fry. I'll come in and I'll see a little school of 1 or 2 or 5 little fry that are hiding between this and the glass, trying to get away from the parents, or maybe they'll come over to the side because I tend to put these closer to the corner with just a little bitty gap. So they'll come find their siblings and kind of try and hide from the parents back behind this thing. So just another upside to those. But I do like the metal ones just for their simplicity. But I hate the fact that pretty much every time, and including earlier, I had to go in. I've got one of the metal clip bendables that you're talking about. I hung it in there. I didn't think about it. I came back 15 minutes later, and 3 fish were smushed up between that and the glass. They'd swum back in there. They were trying to get out, and they pushed themselves further in. And they were fine. I let them out. They hadn't been there that long. But just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, live breeders seem to be stupid because they do that. Almost all live breeders, I think, or bearers do that. I don't know why. I made a snail trap for snail, and I had like 5 mollies stuck in the thing in the first half hour. It's crazy.
All right, let me find where my member went to. That Pride Moore's Fishing More. It won't pull it up. So I'm sure y'all have heard other creators talk about this. The studio never shows the bottom thing, the bottom super chat, bottom member. So I'm going to assume it was Pride Moore's Fishing More. Welcome to the Fish Room Fever family. I see you became a member there. Thank you for joining the team. Be sure you check out that behind the scenes members only content. Get the custom emojis that only the members can use in the chat. I really do appreciate it. We are almost there, and quite frankly, that helps a lot. That helps keep the dream alive, especially with times being tough. It allows me to continue to bring fishy content. I know a lot of you have said you love this type of MacGyver stuff. I've got about 15 videos of like these 5 hacks, or these 5 hacks from the dollar store, these 5 tips from this place. The weird thing is, like I've been showing you tonight, that I think you all will really enjoy. And so the members, the super chats, even just coming in, watching, telling YouTube, hey, we like this, hitting that thumbs up button. We got 99 likes. 1 more gets us to triple digits. 122 people watching. We are about to head out of here, go to Chattanooga Ed's channel. but I appreciate it more than you know. I really, really do. Life has been interesting. Fun fact, I was playing around with the thing because I'm all about analytics and stuff like that. I'm on TikTok. I haven't done anything for like 3 months on there, so you all don't feel bad. It's not like I've been posting there and not here, but I hadn't done anything for like 3 months. About 6 months ago, I said, I want to try and make hashtag Fish Room Fever a thing. Let's see how many video views I can get on that hashtag. I logged back in the other day, and hashtag Fish Room Fever is at 6.7 million views on TikTok.
What?
Yeah, not all my videos, but it's where other people have picked up my hashtag, and even some what's the word I'm looking for? Verified accounts that are putting it on theirs now. They're using hashtag Fish Room Fever on their videos to get views.
Wow.
So I love stuff like that. It's weird things like that that give me the tickles. I just wanted to share that because I found that out earlier today. I was like, I made it a thing. When I first started, it was, there's nothing. And then there's my video views. And then it's 6.7 million hashtag Fish Room Fever views. So little things like that, clicking the like button, they really do help more than you know.
Well, you're at 101.
There we go. I saw it went to 1 ... which is what it does in studio. If I'm watching in studio, it goes 1 ... So I appreciate that. That's what I know. It's hit triple digits. Thank you all very, very much for that. I saw a couple super chats roll in. We're going to grab those. I see one of them is from my buddy Rack at Bird Garden. Rack, I sent you a text the other night. I know that you're not always by your phone, and I can appreciate and understand that. But I really want to get together with you. I want to get you on the show. It's been a while. We haven't had you on as a guest lately.
For sure.
Not to put a lot of pressure on you with the 123 people watching, but throw one in the chat if you'd like to get Rack on here in the near future. Let me find where that super chat is. And again, I saw a lot of thank yous for the content. I do appreciate all of you for that. And I thank you all for being here. I'm glad that you enjoy it. Let me get to those. Jump down to natural. There's Bird Garden with the $5 super chat. Says, great info tonight. Look at that. We're going to round it off with exactly how many party poppers I pulled out. I have a little game that I do. I try and see what's the exact amount of party poppers I should pull out for the night. And, of course, I have extra on standby. But thank you for that, Rack. Bird Garden. I really do enjoy the 24-hour feed that you've got going over there. I find a lot of times I come in here and I'll go to respond to comments, or I'll be working on a thumbnail or editing, and I'll put that feed on there because it's just really relaxing. So maybe I'm getting stressed with, I can't get this clip just right. I get this peaceful view on the Bird Garden channel.
I keep forgetting to tell my dad about that because he can use that Zen. And, he's only subbed to me and Doug Gray.
Right.
So he could definitely use some rack in his life.
Absolutely.
Sure. Dad loves fish.
And then Natural Aquariums, who won that $25 gift card last week in celebration of 2,500 subscribers, which we almost hit, and then it dropped. But I know we'll hit it. I love you guys, and I appreciate you all. If you haven't, though, please subscribe. Do me that honor. Do me that favor. You've stayed this long, so I'm guessing maybe you like the content. Maybe you just like the goofy Southern accent and the weirdo beardo. But hit that subscribe button. But Natural Aquariums with the $2 super chat said, thanks again for the gift card. Got food and safe. I'm glad it went to good use. And thank you for being a supporter and hanging out with us. And congrats again on that win. All right. I think we're caught up. I'm 5 minutes into your stream time, Ed.
Did you say thank you to Tim?
I just saw
Tim
that. I was scrolling down to the bottom because I stopped it on the other one. So, hey, somebody wanted me to open another pack of these. That's what it was.
Well, I thought about it, and I was like, man, I wish Tim was my brother, Tim, because it'd be so cool to have a brother with a fish room.
And we've got...
I could trade fish with him.
Absolutely. If one of the mods would do me a favor and drop a link for Bird Garden, I would very much appreciate that. And if we could get that link dropped one more time for the Aquarium Cop GoFundMe to help support his family. For those of you that weren't here at the beginning, very briefly, we lost a good friend and member of the Fish Fam, Aquarium Cop. His family has got a GoFundMe. And just to clarify, that's Aquarium Cop, not Aquarium Co-op, because people hear and they freak out. But he's been supporting me since day one. His family's got a GoFundMe to try and take care of expenses. So if we can get those in there, we get this last super chat, and then we're going to go hang out in Ed's. And he's already got some super chats that we can say thank you for. We're going to have a fun time over there. Feel free to bring your questions and comments with you. Tim's Fish Room, thank you for that $1 super chat. Dropping that big brown pile of fertilizer on the stream to keep those plants growing. I'm going to turn it over to Ed. Let him say some final words.
Well, guys, we're going to carry it on over. But remember, if you don't come back, well, no, that didn't make sense. Definitely come back.
You made it this far.
I know. I messed up my catchphrase for you, James. James wanted me to have a catchphrase, so I spent a long time doing this. Don't be afraid to get your hands wet. Keep those tanks clean. There you go.
And until next time, keep your fish healthy. Keep yourselves healthy. Catch yourself a little fish room fever.